Welcome in to the Late Night Gamecocks show. Today is October 29th, 2025. Alex, man, you know daylight savings time. I know you little millennials don't know, but daylight savings time's coming, and I can't wait to get an hour of sleep back.
I know, especially because is it Sunday that it turns?
Yeah, you fall back on Sunday, my friend.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, especially after being in Oxford on Saturday night. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh gosh, yeah, man, yeah, yeah. I see Mark Powell in here. Good evening, tribe. Young Guns of Chief Sports. Yeah, man. So Mark Powell, I just had my 37th birthday this past Sunday, and my mom got like the cake out, everything, the candles, and she had 37 on there. And I said, Mom, like, thank you so much. It's so nice, but I'm turning 38. And she said, Matt, you're not. And it really took me a little bit to realize the entire year I thought I was 37. Alex is a young buck. I'm getting older every day. If you can tell by my voice right now, I'm battling a sickness too, but no sickness can keep me away from talking about the Gamecocks and hanging out with y'all. So Alex Jones of the BigSpur.com, thank you for joining us as always. Big game this weekend, right?
Yeah, big game. I mean, South Carolina sitting there at 3-5 now. Like, got to find a way to get to that bowl eligibility. Like, you got 4 games left. I mean, you got to find a way to get into that bowl eligibility. So they're going to need this one this weekend, but it's going to be quite a challenge going against this Ole Miss offense, which we're going to dive deep into here soon.
Yeah, you look at it, you got Coastal. I mean, we hope it's a win. If you can go toe to toe with number 4 Alabama, you hope you can beat Coastal. That team up in the upstate has their own issues, and we'll probably talk about them and best bets later. But you got 2 games here, Alex, both on the road. You have Ole Miss this weekend, and then is there a bye week, and then you go to A&M?
It's by then A&M. Yep.
Yeah, so that actually helps. So you're taking these long trips and you have a bye week, try and figure stuff out. But they got to find a way to win one of these games, Coastal, and then it all comes down to Clemson.
Yeah.
I do think that, like I told someone today, I was chatting private message, a Big Spur guy. We were just chatting back and forth. Alex, I'm gonna go on a limb and say I do think the Gamecocks reach a bowl. I don't know if it's going to come this weekend, next weekend, but I do think they'll win the last 2 games. And look, YouTube is eternal, so you guys can all yell at me a little bit later on and have proof. But
Well, I mean, South Carolina always plays their best football under Shane Beamer in November, and that starts Saturday. So you got to hope that trend continues.
yeah, absolutely. Talking about this game this weekend, the Gamecocks are currently a 12.5 point underdog. The over-under, I was actually a little surprised, Alex, was set at 54.5. We'll
Mm-hmm.
have Justin on here in a little bit and talk about it. Just for record's sake, last week against Alabama, the over-under was, I think, 47.5. So a little bit, maybe the public in Vegas is thinking a little bit more about the Gamecock offense after last week, or maybe they're just thinking that Ole Miss is going to boat race the Gamecocks and score as many points as they want. And longtime listeners of this show know that I love Lane Kiffin, and I think he can pretty much name his number in most games. But at the same time, Alex, he's named his number in games that don't seem to matter. So now, while Gamecock fans might say this game doesn't matter, it matters a heck of a lot to Ole Miss because a loss pretty much puts them on the outside looking in of a playoff game. And Alex, tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like we say that every week that if this team loses, they're out of the playoffs.
Yeah, you get into that point of the season where these kind of 1-loss, 2-loss teams, kind of those fringe playoff teams like this, you got to win out for a lot of those teams. And, you kind of talked about South Carolina being on that last year with their 6-game winning streak and some of that playoff hype was starting to build. It's just that time of the year, and it kind of puts a lot of pressure on those teams.
Yeah, and unfortunately, South Carolina has zero hope of playoffs. So if you have missed the last 7, 8 games for South Carolina, we're not talking about that tonight. We're talking about other things. We're going to preview this game. So Ole Miss owns a 10-8 all-time record against the Gamecocks. I remember when that was favoring the Gamecocks a couple years ago. And Alex, you put a pretty good note here in the show notes here that the last win for the Gamecocks came in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
a 48-44 win in Oxford. And then also in 2020, it was Will Muschamp's last game as the head coach of South Carolina.
Yep.
Um, Alex, I mean, you're a young buck. Tell me what you remember about that game, because what I remember was Kevin Harris running for 800 yards.
Yeah, you had Kevin Harris. That was kind of like the story of that season, though. Kevin Harris had like an incredible year and ended up getting drafted. But yeah, I think that was the game where Lane Kiffin threw his play sheet up in the air, and you could see it on TV on that game. Like, South Carolina's defense was really bad that year, which is kind of crazy with some of the talent they had on there. But nobody played defense in COVID or during that COVID season, and I mean, it was just one of those where it was Kevin Harris versus Ole Miss's offense, and Ole Miss's offense won out there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Kevin Harris got to 300 yards, but he got pretty daggone close, which is crazy to think. You have a player run for 300 yards and you still lose the game by multiple touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up that. I'm looking up those stats real quick to see, because I remember looking at this. It was 59-42 was the final score.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
while you're looking it up, Alex, it was one of the only games. And look, I don't hide this. I'm a South Carolina alumni. I cover the Gamecocks to try and do it as well as I can while being unbiased. I hope the Gamecocks win every game, but that was before I was in sports media, Alex, and I turned the game off. And I just got so mad I turned the game off.
I forgot how bad these stats were. Like, well, not good for Kevin Harris. Had 243 yards on 25 carries and 5 touchdowns. Can you guess how many total yards Ole Miss had in that game?
Oh, 700 plus.
Yeah, 708 total yards in that game. That's crazy.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this. Oh, well, not that. We're done talking about that. That's fast. Craig, you're great here, man. I love you, Craig. Lane doesn't just beat us. He beats us by multiple scores. We can stall out in the red zone. We cannot stall out in the red zone at all. Mark says, I used to hate Kiffin for his pumping gas comment regarding Alshon, but as he's evolved, so is my liking. Look, Lane Kiffin, say what you want about him. He was very immature, probably as a young person. So was I. I still probably am immature, but he's nothing but entertainment. I mean, fire up Lane Kiffin, TMZ, Big Brother 24/7 coverage. I'm all in for any Lane Kiffin. But Alex, let's go ahead and hit that intro video, and then we'll dive into this Ole Miss game.
Gonna turn on the late night show, hear what's going down in Koreatown. I said I'm turning on late night show. Yeah, my Cox will let me down.
So, Alex, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. So I'm going to go through some quick show notes. So if I look over here to the left, you know what I'm doing here. Ole Miss owns wins over Georgia State, Kentucky, Arkansas, Tulane, LSU, Washington State, and Oklahoma. They had their one loss to Georgia in Athens, 43-35. And Alex, I remember watching that game. I don't know why I was watching that game. I think it might have been maybe it was the Gamecocks bye week, so we weren't covering anything. I can't remember, but they had a big lead in that game.
Yeah, it was one of those where they had the big lead, and then it kind of went back and forth. And then I think Ole Miss had the lead going into the fourth quarter, and then Georgia just really kind of outscored them. I think it was like maybe 17-0, something like that in that fourth quarter, where that's kind of what goes back to what Shane Beamer was talking about with finishing games. Like that's a key at this time of year.
Yeah, and look, I don't think anybody in the country watching that game felt like Georgia with that pro style offense was going to be able to muster a comeback, let alone win by 8 points. And sometimes there's just magic in Athens, I'll be honest. And it's really, really hard to win there. The Gamecocks have won there a fair amount, probably more than most teams in the country. I mean, just thinking about the history of that rivalry, how long it's been going on, South Carolina, Georgia, and Gamecock fans will be happy to have that rivalry back next year. I know I will. Athens is one of my favorite places to go, and if I get to go cover it, I'll be happy if I get to go there and just hang out and watch a good football game. That would be great. The big story for Ole Miss is Trinidad Chambliss, Alex, former D2, D3 guy, I think, and he's come in for Alston Simmons. And look, say what you want about some coaches out there and their tactics with young people, but I mean, Alston Simmons gave up baseball for Lane Kiffin, and he hasn't got a second chance. And it's because Chambliss has been so good. But yeah, Chambliss thrown for 1,800 yards. I don't know, like 9-10 touchdowns, 1 interception. 61% of his passes. So that's interesting to me, Alex, when we talk about Chambliss, because when you look at his 3 worst games, I mean, it's probably common sense, but his 3 worst games from a completion standpoint have come against Georgia. Gosh, why am I blanking? Georgia, Oklahoma, and LSU. And so, like, those numbers are sub 60%. So, Alex, my question to you at this point is, Gamecocks defense has been pretty salty. The secondary is finally fully healthy, it feels like. If you look at what the Gamecocks did against Ty Simpson, no, they didn't get an interception, but they made life really difficult for him. So this is that moment for me. Like, Chambliss, if you might, be a dark horse Heisman guy, like, I need you to prove it against this defense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that South Carolina's defense can take away from what they were able to do against Alabama defensively, just because there are some similarities just from some of the weapons that Alabama had on the perimeter to what Ole Miss has on the perimeter. I mean, South Carolina defensively did a pretty good job against Ty Simpson and those guys, because they had targets all over the field with Ryan Williams, Horton, and Jeremy Bernard and those guys. And South Carolina, for the most part, really held their own and made some really nice plays. And I think there's a lot you can carry over with this Ole Miss offense. Now, as Clayton White kind of talked about today, there are some different styles and things like that. Ole Miss is going to do some of that up tempo, kind of change up tempos and things like that. But I think there is a lot of the things that you can carry over and some positivity from a secondary, because it felt like they probably played overall their best performance against a really good Alabama offense at some comparisons to this Ole Miss squad.
Yeah, I think so too, Alex. When I look at it, when I think about Ole Miss, it's kind of like late Steve Spurrier, where Lane Kiffin has really embraced running the football, balanced offense. And honestly, I think their rushing game might be better than their passing game. And that says a lot, because Ole Miss has 4, 5, 6 guys that are over 350 yards receiving this year. So they definitely spread the ball around. And Michael Ray Lynn in the chat box is a good point. Chambliss has so many options, and South Carolina will struggle to contain it. Potentially, yeah. There's a lot of options, but if South Carolina can do what they did against Alabama, carry that momentum forward, like you mentioned, Alex, and bottle up the Ole Miss rushing attack, which, look, Lane Kiffin with the rushing game right now, he kind of reminds me, and this is one of my favorite sayings of all time. And I still watch this movie like once every month or two. But remember the Titans, when Denzel Washington says, I run 9 plays, 6 plays, 7 plays, just like Novocaine, give it time, it always works. He's not going to abandon the run, and he's not going to abandon the run against the South Carolina team for sure. But
and Mark Powell brings up a pretty good comment here. He said, we'll play solid D, but Chambliss will gash us to death on third downs. That's what South Carolina's going to be really good at in this game, is being on third downs, just because, one, Chambliss can kind of do some of that, scrambling. If you're right there close to him, in your pass rush lanes, that he can go pick up a first down. And Ole Miss is pretty solid from a third down. I think around 50% third down conversion rate, which is really good. So, and then also Lacey, their running back, is also really good. So third down is going to be key, just because South Carolina was pretty good against Alabama, but then once you got into that, kind of that last drive, Alabama converted some third downs there. But that's going to be one of the big keys to the game, is can you get off the field there?
I think so too. And like, I think it sucks. Like, trust me, it sucks. Um, yeah, I heard all of Shane's comments in the press game or post game press conference. Sorry, guys, tell you I'm sick. A little foggy brain right now, but everything he said were things that I thought the Gamecock fans have been wanting to hear for a while. And when you talk about Ole Miss coming to town, unfortunately for Gamecock fans, it's taken 6, 7, 8 games to figure out who they are, what they're going to do. And if the Gamecocks can continue their trend right now, look, against Alabama, in my opinion, they looked every bit of a top 5 team in the country. And let's not forget that this Gamecock team was ranked in the preseason top 15. I think they cracked into the top 10 before week 3. Before week 3, y'all. But if this South Carolina team plays up to its potential, I do think there's an opportunity there. But Alex, before we talk about this Ole Miss defense, wanted to ask you, the injury report should have been out about, I don't know, like 10 minutes ago. Is it out yet?
Yeah, so right now for South Carolina on the first report of the weekend, Casey Henry's out, which is not a surprise. And then doubtful is Buddy Mack and Jaden Sellers. So Sellers is the interesting one. They're not sure what's going on there. He actually talked yesterday from a press conference standpoint. So interesting there. And then just for Ole Miss, the only player listed is cornerback Antonio Kite, who's questionable.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that Lane Kiffin isn't doing what he did before, where everybody is questionable.
Yeah.
And potential. Yeah, that's a shock to me. I hadn't heard anything about the younger Sellers brother. Jaden's a really good player. He's shown that over the past couple of weeks here. So we'll see. Alex, let me get your take on this. Do you think the injury report matters? Like, really and truly? Do you think it's like gamesmanship? I think that's better than it could have been, but I think there's still some gamesmanship there.
I think there obviously is, and not just like South Carolina, but I think everybody. I mean, you talk about Lane Kiffin, I think there's always a little bit of that. I'm interested to see if they kind of continue to tweak some of the things with that. Like, obviously, it was a big thing for the betting kind of side of things, just because you get that out. But it is interesting just because there have been some things that have popped up that you kind of wondered about on there.
So, Alex, I gotta ask you a quick question here too. I see Meso 45 John or Meso 45 Johns. He said 6'7". So I heard about 6'7" months ago, but I never experienced it. This past weekend at tailgate, a kid kept saying 6'7". I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "Well, I can tell you, but it'll cost you $20." And so I did what any respectable person would do. I Googled it.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, you're young enough. Do you know what 6'7" means?
I don't even know if I know the whole full meaning behind it, to be honest. I just know it's the big trend going around right now.
I think it means like mid. And then I think there's a million different things that kids have done now that just to irritate parents. The kid did tell me they're not allowed to do it at school anymore. Like, you go to the principal if you say 6'7". But if what's his name again? Meso 45 Johns. If you can tell me what 6'7" means, that'd be great. Maybe maybe he's talking about the Gamecocks are going to make a bowl game and finish 6-7. I don't know, but yeah. So Alex, we talk about this Ole Miss defense. Opponents are averaging 361.8 yards per game, 199 passing, and 162.8 rushing. If there's one thing that Mike Shula wants to do is establish the run. And we talked about this last week going to the Alabama game, saying there was opportunity to run here. And the Gamecocks had decent success. I'm not going to say great success against Alabama. But is this the game with week 3, I guess, of Sean Elliott leading the offensive line that we see the Gamecocks find their momentum rushing?
Yeah, kind of like I was talking about from a defensive standpoint, there's things to build on. I think from a run game standpoint, there's some to build on from what you did against Alabama. I think it kind of continues to come down to, we talk about, what you've seen from Matt Fuller so far. Obviously, Russell Faison had the tough play with the interception, with the drop pass that led to an interception, but kind of feels like those two can be your top 2 guys. And then I think a lot of it too was with the run game last week was Lenora Sellers. Like, he kind of looked like he was getting back to some of that 2024 Lenore's Sellers on the ground stuff. And I think you're going to need that in this game because, one, you're going to have to, sustain drives and you want to try to keep your defense off the field, or more so keep or Ole Miss's offense off the field in this one. I think, using the run game to stay ahead of the chains and then convert on those like key 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 types of plays is going to be huge in this game.
Yeah, and even going back to the offense, you talked about them, or Ole Miss. When I say them, I mean Ole Miss, converting like 45 or 50% of their third downs. Well, cool. The Gamecocks already give that up anyway. So, like maybe it's just status quo. So we'll see there. But Alex, I mean, I know they have some good linebackers. Can you talk about them? And then maybe we'll get into the defensive line after this.
Yeah, it feels like for the last few years under Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss has always had some really good linebackers. And, when you look at some of the guys like Suntarine Perkins is one of the guys that he was there last year and a guy that's been really good for them. And, the trio of him and TJ Daugherty and Jaden Yates are leading the team in tackles right now. So that's going to be something to kind of watch and just see from a run game perspective just because of how important linebackers are. And then, kind of with this defense too, like, kind of mentioned some of the opportunities that South Carolina could have in their run game. Right now they're Ole Miss is tied for 13th in sacks right now. So haven't been getting after the quarterback too much, but I think, they've been pretty good from a secondary standpoint. I think on the edge, on the defensive line, Princely, or make sure I got it because I think it's Prince Will Umanmian and Ken Franklin are the two names to kind of watch. So they're the leading guy pass rusher for Ole Miss with 3.5 sacks, and Franklin has 2.5 sacks. So it's going to be interesting. I think I mentioned just briefly a minute ago, run game is going to be key in this game for South Carolina because if you can stay, and it's just, I feel like we've said this the past pretty much all season, but the more you can get that run game going, the more it's going to help Sellers and the rest of this pass game get open because I think it's going to be key early in this game to kind of maybe punch first and this one to not get behind early and see if you can create some momentum early. And I think a lot of that is going to be dependent on what your offense can do early in this game.
Yeah, so with that being said, Alex, if Shane Beamer and the Gamecock offense second possession get down inside the 10 and it's 4th down, what do you think the Gamecocks should do in that situation? Should they go for the touchdown in this type of game, or should they take the points? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot, but
I know
you're going to be right or wrong.
I think in this game you got to go for touchdowns just because of what this Ole Miss offense can do. Like, I think just maybe if it's early in the game, you try to get points on the board, which I could see that too. But in this game, I think field goals aren't going to win it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this game, Alex, and I think about the common opponents, and there are 3, maybe more. I mean, I looked at 3 of them. You have Kentucky, you have LSU, and you have Oklahoma. And I didn't put Kentucky into this math just because I thought it was kind of silly to do. Because Kentucky, regardless of what you think about South Carolina, Kentucky's worse. I can promise you that. But so you look at that LSU game, and I got my little note card here. They beat LSU 24-19 at home. They beat Kentucky 30-23 at home. And then on the road, they lost to Georgia 43-35. We talked about that game here earlier on tonight. And then they beat Oklahoma 34-26. And I don't know how many 34-26 final scores I've ever seen, Alex. It was a weird kind of game, weird weather, all that. But in those games, Ole Miss has 480 yards of offense against LSU. We all kind of agree that LSU used to be a good defense in the beginning of the season. Maybe they're not after what A&M did to them. And then Georgia, good defense. Oklahoma, good defense. But 480 yards, 351, and 431 yards of total offense. When you look on the defensive side, 254 yards against LSU is what they gave up, 510 against Georgia, and 359 against Oklahoma. I think like worst case scenario for the Gamecocks is that 254 number that LSU put up, and that's on the table. But I do think that it's probably going to be over 300 yards of offense for the Gamecocks. And when I look at those specific games, go ahead, Alex. You have something to say?
I think that is a good number. But then, I think red zone is going to be key in this game too. Like, you got to find a way to convert in the red zone. And South Carolina's gotten down into the red zone multiple times this year, and it feels like a lot of them either come down to field goals or just 4th down tries to get in the end zone. Like, being successful in the red zone, one, either making the most of your opportunities for points, but in this game, you got to make the most of it with touchdowns, I think.
Yeah, and I think Craig has a good point here. We can't dial up a great play on fourth down side of 10 like Alabama did. Well, good news, Craig. Mike Shula saw those plays in person, and maybe they've worked on those this past week. But look, in the LSU Georgia Oklahoma game, Ole Miss has scored. I don't know. I can't remember how many points, but essentially what I do is I like to look at analytics, and so they had 1,262 yards and scored 93 points in those games. So they needed 13 and a half yards per point. South Carolina this year is giving up 335 yards per game. And surprisingly enough, South Carolina State, I think, had more than 335 yards. So I feel pretty honest when I make this comparison here. But if you take what they needed against LSU, Georgia, and Oklahoma, I'm talking about Ole Miss, then if the Gamecocks only give up 335 yards, it's only 25 points. So that's where I see some glimpses of hope here for the Gamecocks. Now, I don't have to do the math on the Gamecocks points per yard. You guys know it's not good. They probably need about 50 yards for every point they've scored this season. But if you work off the Alabama game and hope that this team has made progress and has gotten better week over week, you can kind of see some avenues for an upset. I'll put it that way. So, Alex, the question I have for you, this is a game called More or Less. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Does South Carolina have more or less passing yards this season than their opponent?
Less.
It's more. It's actually more. The Gamecocks have 1,560 passing yards, and opponents have 1,556. So not more by much, but
not much, yeah.
But that surprised me. That really surprised me. And then South Carolina rushing yards versus their opponents this season, more or less.
I have to go less there.
Yeah, it's much less. Opponents have 1,128 yards rushing, and the Gamecocks have 857. Now, remember, in college, sacks count against your rushing numbers. This one was very interesting, Alex.
Okay.
How many punt return yards do you think opponents have on the Gamecocks for the season?
Not much. I mean, I'll put it up. I'm probably going to be way off when I say it's 145.
Divide that by 10.
Really?
11. There have only been 7 punts fielded by the other team this year.
Yeah,
and those have gone for 11
I don't
yards.
remember many punt returns, to be honest.
Yeah, there haven't been. There's been 33 punts on the season, and only 7 of them have been returned for 11 yards. So South Carolina has to continue doing that. South Carolina also has more yards on kick returns than their opponents. So when you're talking about a game like this, Alex, and I just laid out the numbers for how many yards Ole Miss needed to score a point against LSU, Georgia, and Oklahoma, I see an avenue here. And look, I'm not saying it's a big avenue. I'm not saying it's Broadway. It might be, like going through a maze, but it's pretty silly to think about. So, Alex, let's get to our keys to the game here. I'll let you start, and then I'll pick it up from there. And then we'll give our prediction, and then we'll get Justin in here.
Yeah, I think, one of the big keys I have for South Carolina in this game is, one, get off to a good start in this one. I feel like you say that for any road game because you want to kind of knock the environment out of it. But, if South Carolina kind of gets behind early and lets Ole Miss and Chambliss and those guys get some momentum offensively, that it can be really hard to stop. And then you got to play catch up with them. So I think, big key number one for me is get off to a good start in this one. And then, find that run, continue to, find that running game. I think we've talked about there's some opportunities there for South Carolina just based on some statistical stuff with Ole Miss's defense, and then I think play action and spread the field is going to be key, or find a way to get in this one too, just because you want to spread that defense out. And then I just think defensively kind of build on what you were doing in Alabama. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of a different game plan for Ole Miss with what Chambliss brings from a run game standpoint, but just kind of, that secondary had a really good game. So just build on that and create turnovers. You got to have great turnovers in this and win the turnover battle.
Yeah, the turnover thing is one thing I've been thinking about, Alex, because I thought Ty Simpson was due for an interception. It didn't happen. Say what you want.
Came
Tyson
close a
said I
couple
thought played a really good game. Never put the ball in jeopardy. Had some
There,
opportunities too.
yeah, there were a few like that one in the end zone. I think it was C-State and Williams are right there for that one, and there was another one that was pretty close too. But yeah, to your point, that's going to be big.
Yeah, so I think you gotta force a turnover or two here. I don't care how it comes. I do think you're going to see some type of fake this weekend if the opportunity presents itself, whether it's a fake punt, whether it's a fake field goal, something. We haven't seen a fake field goal this year for the Gamecocks. I think that if the opportunity presents itself, I think they will do that. I think that you have to continue letting Lenore Sellers do what he did against Alabama, right? He's fantastic when he's able to run, and God bless him. I know he's caught so much crap around Gamecock land for that fumble, and with all due respect, he knows that he knows he needed to hold on to that ball. And look, Gamecock fans aren't looking for a lesson learned in week 8 and your 19th start or whatever it is, or 20th start. So yeah, that sucked. But I do think that Lenore's is going to have a good game. I think that the Gamecocks are going to be able to run the ball a little bit. And ultimately, I think that special teams is going to have a say in this game. I think Gamecocks need to keep doing just what I talked about. Like I was flabbergasted when I found out that there's only been 11 punt return yards this year. That's crazy. So on special teams as well, don't kick the ball out of the end zone. Don't give them extra yards. That's happened a couple times this year. But I think the Gamecocks have a better shot in this than others do. And Alex, like, I don't mean to bury the lead here. I'll let you get your prediction here in a second, but like I said, YouTube is eternal, y'all. So y'all can all yell at me, tell me I'm an idiot, whatever. I got the Gamecocks 28-24 this weekend. I think the Gamecocks win this game. I've looked at the numbers, and there are a lot of things that point to the Gamecocks turning a corner and winning a game they're not supposed to. And I think it happens this week in Oxford.
Well, I want to appreciate or say thank you for putting me on the spot with that one. So now the pressure's on me with this one. But I do think there are opportunities for South Carolina offensively in this game, just from what we've talked about. I think it's going to be key for the defense to be consistent. But I should have mentioned this in the keys of the game. Like South Carolina's got it defensively, got to get off the field, and offensively sustain drives to keep that Ole Miss offense off the field. And I think they do that for a half. I think it's either South Carolina. I can see South Carolina having a lead at halftime, or it being still a one-score tie, close game, something like that. I just think at the end of the day, Ole Miss maybe makes one or two more plays, and South Carolina ends up winning, like a 27 to 17 type of game, something around there.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this, and I say this a lot. When I look at games, like oftentimes I don't often think it's going to be like a nail biter. Like I think that if one team's going to win, they're going to win this way. If another team's going to win, they're going to win this way. So like I said, I got Gamecocks 28-24. And there's math behind it. We'll talk to Justin here in a little bit. He might laugh me off this YouTube stage, but look, man, I think that if it's a blowout, it's going to be Ole Miss. But I do think the Gamecocks will win 28-24, and we'll see. But Alex, before we get to our sponsors, let's quickly talk about basketball, because obviously we talked about it on Sunday night, and the Gamecocks obviously lost that game. But we're going to have a more in-depth basketball episode next week when the Gamecocks are on bye. But I just want to give you some exhibition notes if you haven't seen them. Auburn lost to Oklahoma State in overtime in their exhibition, 97-95. Alabama beat Florida State 109-105. Vanderbilt beat Virginia 95-87. It was I don't know what that stat is telling me right there, but Vanderbilt beat UAB 89-67. Kentucky beat Purdue 78-65, which is really interesting to me because Purdue is the number one team in the country for a lot of folks. Missouri beat Kansas State 100-91. LSU beat UCF 75-68. Ole Miss lost to St. Mary's 68-53. Tennessee lost to Duke 83-76. Texas A&M beat Arizona State 95-88. and Mississippi State lost to Houston 61-52. Arkansas beat Memphis 99-75, and we just talked about South Carolina losing on a buzzer beater to NC State 88-86. So like me and Alex said on Sunday, you can't take much from these exhibitions. You can take what you can, but it looks like the SEC is going to be strong again. And like what I've said all offseason, I think South Carolina fits into that picture, Alex.
Yeah, the stronger the SEC is, the more opportunities South Carolina has for those quad 1 and quad 2 types of games. And we'll talk a whole lot more about basketball next week, especially with the season starting Tuesday. But it feels like there's a lot of positivity kind of surrounding that program right now with what they're showing in that exhibition, and then should have some opportunities to if they handle business to rack up some wins and non-conference play to get into that kind of tough schedule you're going to have in the SEC.
Yeah, and before we get to Justin and our sponsors, Alex, I have a very, very hot, scorching hot take. And I want to get your opinion of it, and all of y'all in chat row too. I'm not saying this because Eli Ellis scored 22 points in the exhibition, but I told my brother today, and we were talking about an hour about basketball, life, all kinds of stuff. I think Eli Ellis, if he stays 4 years, has a chance to break BJ Mackey's scoring record. All he needs to do is average 16 points for his career. I know I know people that didn't score 16 points in their entire college career, but I don't know, Alex. I think that nowadays with NIL, being able to get kids to stay in school, playing 4 years, not going to the NBA, it's hard. It's going to be hard to break any school scoring record, but I think Eli Ellis has a chance. Is that scorching hot? Is that just crazy hot?
I wouldn't say scorching hot. Like it's. I think it's one where you still that was a really good showing from Eli, and I think now you just want to see what he can kind of build on that, because that's NC State we talked about. That's a really good team. Will Wade. I mean, he kind of praised Eli a little bit in the post game press conference after that scrimmage. Like he's going to be one. I'm interested to see from a starting perspective if he's going to be in the starting lineup. Maybe not early on this season. But just what is his role? Oh, obviously, he's going to play a huge role on this team, but
yeah,
and he's going to play a lot of minutes. Just if he's going to be a starter. But to your point on the scoring part of it, like he's a scorer. Like you saw that at OTE with what he can do. Like he can create his own shot. But I think one of the cool things you saw him do the other night was no turnovers. Like that was huge for a freshman in that type of game. But then also some of the assist stuff that he can do. Like he and Michi Johnson is probably going to be a solid with Kobe Knox, who I thought looked really good the other night. It's going to be has a chance to be a fun backcourt for South Carolina.
Well, just for the record, if Eli Ellis or anybody does it, they need to score 2,120 points. So
a lot of points.
A lot of points. He got 1% of them if the game counted in the exhibition. But yeah. Alex, let's go ahead and hit our sponsor break, and when we come back, we'll welcome Justin from sportscapvalue.com.
Morning, Carl. Usual?
Yeah.
Your oldest was in here the other day. Said the two of you took a trip down to my neck of the woods. How'd that go?
You might as well give me one of those Carolina cars while you're at it.
I knew I liked that one.
Yeah.
There you go, my friend.
Thanks.
Hey, Carl. Congratulations.
See you tomorrow, Freddie.
You bet.
JC Sherbert here had a brilliant idea that some good friends of mine in Florence have told me about. Next time you're having a wedding or an event or anytime you got to feed a bunch of people, talk to my friends over at Flavortown Eats and Events. That's right. It's a food truck / trailer, prepares the food fresh on site right there for you. No hassle. It's absolutely delicious. They'll come out, turnkey solution to feed the masses at your event. Go to their website right now. flavortownflow.com. That's flavortownflow.com. They have all the contact information you need, and they are a proud sponsor of the Late Night Gamecock Show and the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome to Palm Casual Patio Furniture. Because we are the factory, Palm Casual has the ability to offer the highest quality outdoor furniture paired with world-class service. Since 1979, our factory showrooms have done our best to make the buying process as easy as possible for our customers. Our understanding of the many factors that go into your decision has helped us create our 30-day trial period that increases the level of comfort our customers feel during the shopping experience. Visit us in Somerville, Mount Pleasant, Myrtle Beach, and Bluffton, and online at palmcasual.com for our products and out-of-state locations. Go Gamecocks!
This is the Late Night Gamecock Show with the pride of Hampton County, Alex Jones. And with the king of late night, Matt Anderson. Go Gamecocks!
Welcome back into the Late Night Gamecock Show. And again, we want to say a special thank you to all of our sponsors. If you have a need for any of their services, please take advantage of it. You all know Palm Casual. If you watch the Chief Sports Network, they're the best in the business. South Carolina Education Lottery paid for me and Alex to go to school, a lot of it at least. And then Kirby at Flowtown. Just fantastic people. I mean, booked out through the end of the year and starting into next year. Already have things on the books and weddings. So make sure if you have a catering need, you get to Kirby. But Alex, let's go and bring Justin in here. I'm sure Justin has a lot to say. Justin, man, were you in Williams-Brice on Saturday?
I was not, unfortunately. Did not make this game. And man, what a tough one. Is it basketball season yet or what?
It's close.
Close.
Yeah. Yeah. So close, but so far. The pick six was, I mean, does it bounce any nicer for the Alabama defender, straight into his breadbasket? He walks it in almost, and then obviously the late fumble at the end. And then the defense kind of giving up that touchdown to Alabama. And then I told some folks like they're going to dig deep for that 2-point conversion play. And sure enough, they did. I was like, I knew that there's just no way we're going to stop this. They're going to come up with something. And that's what good teams do. They find ways to win the game. And that's what they did. I mean, overall, South Carolina put up a good effort, but it's what they say. When teams lose games on a consistent basis through the season, they always find ways to lose the game. And unfortunately, they're on the wrong side of this one.
Well, hey, Justin, at least they covered.
Yeah, they did. They did. Like I said, I can't figure out my Gamecock team.
Well, Justin, basketball season is going to be right around the corner, and I think it actually starts Monday night. I'm sure you're going to have picks on sportscatvalue.com. We'll look forward to seeing those. I'm not going to put you on the spot right now for any basketball stuff, but looking around the country, or actually, let's actually take a pause. How'd you do last week, Justin?
About even, a little bit of juice, 7-8 overall, and but biggest hit was on. Let me see, I had it pulled up before I came on here. Let's see. Biggest loss was on biggest win in Cincinnati. They covered with ease against Baylor. Had Mississippi State with the hook. Should have won that game. Then my biggest loss was TCU in West Virginia. Had the over there, and they only scored 40 points. But my Wisconsin Badgers did score a touchdown, so we're good.
Yeah. That was your big bet. You said, hey, over. What was it 6.5, Justin?
Yeah. They got it. They lost. They did put up 7. So,
well, look, NFL is in full gear right now, and like we've talked about in the past, NFL like right now, I think it becomes, and college football too, it becomes the toughest time of the year to lay a bet down because you feel like everything, and one game in particular, it's revisionist history. I understand that, but I could not understand how the Bills were such short favorites against Carolina last week. Did you make a play on that game? Because that one just seemed like easy money to me.
Yeah, I was on the over there, and I got it by 1 point. It was 48, and then the total was 49. Carolina was unable to do anything. They just have looked like the South Carolina teams in the past, coming out flat in all phases of the game. And Bills look good. They look back. They look like they were back to their normal selves, and was fortunate enough to be on the right side of that over there for that game.
Yeah, and you could have cleared the over pretty easily if they had executed that hurricane field goal at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
That's never what a sports capper wants to see.
Oh,
So, Alex, I'm sure you got some games. I got some games. Justin has some games he wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Justin, let's go ahead and run around the country real quick. Start wherever you want. And Alex, if he misses a game, we'll fill in.
Okay.
Okay. Kind of looking at West Virginia and Houston this week for the over 49.5, as well as Navy and North Texas. North Texas is probably has the best offense in the country, and that total is extremely high at 65.5. Looking for that to go over. Keep your eye out for Navy to make the college football playoff. I think it's currently undefeated.
Yeah.
If you're kind of looking for a smaller school to get into the 12 team playoff, they may have a shot. Boston College, I know they're terrible, but they're getting 28.5 hosting Notre Dame at home. I know they've had a terrible year. They covered last week. Look for them to kind of backdoor cover that against Notre Dame. And then I like Cal at home getting points against Virginia. Virginia, barely squeaked one out against North Carolina last week. So, and then Florida State, kind of I always speak of these kind of fishy lines. They're laying 10 against a 5-2 Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of eyeing Florida State there. They're not having the best year, obviously. Talking about their coach and whatnot. And then we'll probably talk about coaches at some point, but that's for down the road. And then I'm kind of eyeing USC and Nebraska over 58.5. I look for this to be a high-scoring game. So those are the 6 that I've got kind of picked out early.
Yeah, so Alex, last night you and I were texting back and forth, and I sent a screenshot to Justin and you both. We had a little group chat going there. There are a lot of games, Justin, that I don't know what the heck to do with. Like, my brain tells me one thing, and then my heart tells me the other thing. I'm going to start with Vanderbilt and Texas. That game is in Austin. Vanderbilt, number 9 team in the country. Never thought I'd see that in my entire life. But Texas is 20th and hanging on to that top 25 spot by a thread. But Texas is a 2.5-point favorite. Last night, I think we said it was a 2-point game. So any guidance, anything you can give us on that one? Because I'll speak for myself. My heart says, look at Vanderbilt, this feel-good story. Trust what you're seeing on TV. Trust it. But at the same time, it's in Austin, and Texas has to win this game. And I know how it worked last week when I said LSU had to win against A&M.
Yeah, Matt, you read my mind. I almost put this on the list, and I did not. I've been betting against Vanderbilt all season, and they've just been killing me. And I still don't like them in this spot. I just think this is the week that has got to come to an end, or at least they've got to take a second loss. Texas can't lose any more games. This is a good spot for them, and I'm gonna side with Texas as well on this.
Yeah, give you another one really quick. Let's go. Yeah, this one's one I mentioned yesterday. Miami last night was laying 12 on the road to SMU. Alex, you lost that SMU bet last week.
I did.
And I thought it was a great pick. Like, how is SMU not going to cover 2.5 against Wake Forest? But now that line has gone from 12 to Miami minus 12.5. And when I sent it to Alex last night, Alex just said, like, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was pretty easy. You were like, Miami covers.
Yeah. I just think, Miami this year, I think it's one of those things where you're just kind of waiting on them to have that one loss. Kind of had it versus Louisville, and I think maybe they've gotten that out of their system. So I kind of lean Miami here.
Yeah, this is a stay away game for me. I looked at this earlier, and then it seems like a lot of points, and they're on the road. I don't know, but Miami has been surprisingly when they're at home and given that large spread, you think they dominate, and they don't. And then they go on the road, you expect them not to dominate, and they probably will. So, look at it from a 1,000-foot view. I just think it's a stay away game, personally.
So yeah, that California Virginia game too stood out to me. I think last night it was 5.5, and it's gone down to 4.5. And this is a great time to kind of shout Justin out here because sometimes you miss the line, right, Justin? Like, hey, the line was good. Now it's not good. I didn't place a bet. And when you see all this money coming in on one team, and I mean, I'm somewhat shocked to see California get another point to their favor, to be more competitive.
Yeah, that's
what do you think when you see that, Justin?
Yeah, what you're referring to is what we call closing line value. So if a team comes out at a certain number and you get the better side and you get an extra 1, 2, 3 points or what have you, or even more than that, when it closes, then that's what we look at closing line value. But that goes both ways too. That only works if you pick the right side. I mean, if you're on the right side of winning the bet. So there's some give and take when it does come to getting your bet down earlier in the week. But like you said, these are the dog days of the season. This is like you talked about the NFL earlier. This is the same way with college football. You see some kind of lines that aren't close or they're very, multiple touchdowns, 3, 4 touchdowns. And at the end of the day, I'm not here to pick just the mainstream team, so to speak. I'm looking for value. So when I'm looking for those 65, when I'm going through those 65 plus games, I mean, I might pick a North Texas. It might be a Navy. Is where I can find the value. It's not necessarily going to be an Alabama or whoever, or South Carolina, just for that matter. It being our team. So at the end of the day, you'll take the value where you can find it.
Yeah, and look, we've talked about it since the very first time Justin came on the show. Justin posts his picks on Saturdays, the day of the game, and he's going to look at this the entire time. Alex, I'm sure you have a game or two you want to hit on, but let me hit on this one game, and then I'll turn the floor over to you, Alex. Cincinnati, Utah. Utah's the 10.5-point favorite on ESPN.com right now. I don't know why I wouldn't take Cincinnati. So tell me why I'm crazy or if I'm crazy.
That's a tough one. I mean, Utah, I liked them 2 weeks ago at BYU and they lost or they didn't cover. And then they looked impressive last week. Cincinnati's looked good all year. They're going all the way to Utah. This is one of those where I've sprinkled a little bit on Cincinnati money line here and roll with it.
All right, Alex, any other games you want to get to before we get to our best bets?
Yeah, there are 2 SEC games I'm interested to get Justin's take on.
Like, by the way, this is when Alex actually finalizes his bets after he talks to Justin and then he picks them.
That is not true. I can confirm that is not true. I think the 2 SEC games that I'm kind of interested in to get your take on, and 2 games I don't know if I would touch, to be honest. I'm interested to hear what your take are. Florida and Georgia. Florida is 7.5-point underdog. What's interesting about that is it kind of feels like you just don't know what Florida team you're going to get, because I could easily see Georgia covering this. Just your take on that spread.
Yeah, I think it's at 7.5. I would buy the hook here and take Georgia.
Yeah.
But also I like the over here. I think some points are going to get scored.
Yeah.
I think Florida's going to come out firing. They're going to empty the playbook, interim coach, blah, blah, blah. I'm taking the over here in this game if I had to pick.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was leaning to. And the other SEC game that's interesting is Auburn and Kentucky. And the point spread I don't think I would mess with just because it's 10.5 in Auburn. And I could see it being around 10, so I don't know if I'd mess with it. But with the point total with 44.5 right now, I don't know. This game kind of feels like it could be one that goes over here just because Kentucky's defense is a little iffy. And then Kentucky offensively is starting to figure it out with Cutter Boley at quarterback. They've had some really good past performances here these past 2 weeks offensively. What would you think about taking the over in this one?
Yep. You took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say. I just don't trust this Kentucky team. I spoke about it last week on the show about as a potential with Tennessee. I ended up taking them off the board, but I did not play it on Saturday, thank God, because they got killed. So I just don't know what team's going to show up. And then with Auburn's kind of fighting for their life as a program and Hugh Freeze, this is just I'm with you. This is a total game here, and we take the over.
Matt, I just added that to one of my 5 games.
I know you did. One of the things I really like about this conversation that we're having right now, especially between Justin and Alex, is y'all look at the point total. And sometimes I'm scared of point totals. I just don't feel like I know enough about both teams to say this or that. Justin, do you, and this is specifically for you, Alex, chime in whenever you want to, but this is for Justin. Do you have I know you have a system, you have an algorithm, you have everything, you have your power ratings, all that. Do you prefer over-unders or point spreads when you bet?
That's a good question. I guess the cop-out answer is which one I can find the best value on. But I think everybody, it's fun to bet the overs, for your general public, to our viewers and listeners here. Nobody wants to bet an under because when you're betting an under, you're going against offense, points scored. You want a defensive battle, so to speak. So, I think if I had to pick, obviously when I do take the overs, those are the best to pull for. But a wise man always told me many, many years ago that whenever you can take the points, take the points. So I've always kind of, I kind of have that in the back of my head when I'm finalizing stuff. That don't mean obviously I take favorites too, but sometimes, having those free points is hard to go away from.
Yeah, Alex, I only brought that up because you've been doing more and more over-unders lately and been killing me with it. And I feel like I need to jump on the bandwagon.
It just feels like it's been a little bit more, I won't say easier, but it's been, I guess, harder to kind of track those point spreads just because it feels like you get those late touchdowns and some of those garbage time things. Like it kind of hurts. But I've kind of been here recently looking for those point totals just because I feel like it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I will say, if you ever plan a trip to Las Vegas, and Justin, I'm sure you've been there once or twice, but the most fun thing to do is be there for conference basketball tournaments or NCAA tournaments, and they have first to 15 points, and you just hear 80% of the room go nuts in the sports book because nobody likes to bet unders and everybody wants points. So it's a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to get Justin in here talking about some college basketball here soon.
Yeah, college basketball, and with college starting Monday and NBA is already a week and a half in, this is where we're grinding every day. College basketball is nonstop, 7 days a week. So is the NBA, and we're getting ready to go on a tear. So I'm looking forward to it starting next week for sure.
Yeah, if you're ever going to go to Vegas, I would recommend going for conference tournaments instead of the NCAA basketball tournament because there's just more games and it's a little less crowded, and it's just amazing. It's so much fun.
I've heard the everybody I've talked to, I think I've been about 10 times, so to speak, yet to go during March Madness. So that's kind of on my bucket list. I just haven't I've been for a Super Bowl and I've been for other occasions, but I've yet to make it for March Madness, and I've got to do it at some point here within the near future.
Well, you got kids, man. It's a tough time of the year. Kids are usually out of school, all that kind of stuff. So I get it. But Alex, I guess it's 9 o'clock now, so let's go ahead and get going. I'm going to give an update on the best bets.
Okay.
This is not an update I want to give everyone, but
Make
Alex should enjoy this. So far this season, we picked 40 games. 40. Alex is 23-17. So Alex has bet $100,000 on all those games. Alex is going to be retiring, not doing this show with me come next week. But I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm 17-23. So I need some wins here tonight. Last week, Alex went 3-2. I had another 1-4 week. A lot of things just didn't go my way, but that's how it works when you're picking games. So, Alex, do you want to go first, or should I go first? And as always, Justin's going to give his take on what we pick.
Well, I think I'll go ahead and go first. But I got a question real quick for Justin. Do they already have I could look this up easy, but do they already have college basketball lines out for these next week? Does South Carolina game have a line already? Or how early do they do those?
You put me on the spot, but I'm sure they do. Give me 1 second.
A lot of it, in the preseason, is built on KenPom. I've just noticed that. Yeah. If you look at KenPom, Evan Mia, Bart Torvik, whatever that number is what Vegas starts with. And then,
gotcha.
But yeah, I don't know if there's anything.
Spreads aren't out yet.
Gotcha.
Okay. I did see South Carolina on KenPom as a 21 or 22 point favorite in their first game.
Yeah.
So. And remember, y'all, when we're talking about, get ready for basketball, y'all, because we love it. Three of us love it. If you want to have those good net metrics and good net numbers, South Carolina needs to win by more than 22 Monday night, and they need to do that against every non-conference opponent they play.
Got to be impressive.
Cover the spread every time.
Yep.
Well, Alex, go ahead with your first pick.
All right. Well, the first one I have is Auburn, Kentucky point total. Just kidding, not really. First one I'm going with. This one kind of surprised me from a spread. Georgia Tech is 5.5 point favorite over NC State. I got Georgia Tech covering that.
See, this is a dog days game here. You know, this is a watch for the upset. This could be a potential upset right here. I mean, I would not be surprised if NC State wins this game. I'm telling you, this is one of those weeks where somebody's getting upset. Mark it down. You heard it here first on the Late Night Gamecock Show. Somebody's going down this weekend that is not expected to.
All right, Matt, scratch that one. I'm taking that one back.
Well, you can't because I have it as well.
I didn't read your feelings.
Georgia Tech -5.5. Yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't mind doing a redo because, like, I can't gain anything here. But yeah, I mean, I have the same thing. I'll go next, Alex. I have Mississippi State plus 4.5 at Arkansas. I think that Arkansas can't stop anybody. And look, at some point, Mississippi State's going to win an SEC game because they've been so competitive in so many games. So give me Mississippi State plus 4.5, and I would actually sprinkle the money line here.
Yeah, this is a stay away game because you just never know. But yeah, Mississippi State. I mean, yeah, sure.
I feel very confident right now, Alex. Very confident.
So while we're at that game, I also had that one, but I had 68.5 right now. I'm going under in that one. That's just a lot of points. And I think Arkansas's defense is a little scary, but I think Mississippi State is going to do enough to hold that point total under there.
Yeah, I like that, Alex. I'm with you. I do for sure. You know, speaking of like the over-unders, the totals for these games, you know, the clock changed several years ago with the running clock and whatnot, and that's affected a lot of these over and unders. And obviously the books have adjusted accordingly. But you get in those situations at the end of games, end of quarters, where if it's a blowout, I mean those scores, those unders will come into fruition really quick. If it's a blowout or if it's a defensive battle or long drives that are happening and the teams just seem to be going back and forth, that clock goes awfully quick. So with a high total like that, expect it to go under last minute for sure.
You know when the clock did not tick off fast enough? It was last week because Alabama got the ball with about 7.5 minutes left. And after every play, I was like, inbounds. Like, come on.
2 days.
Tick. It did not go fast on that one. But, yeah, you're exactly right, Justin. And look, Alex, I agree that 68.5 on principle, y'all. If I see a over-under 68.5, I'm taking under.
Yeah, that's a lot of points. That's a ton of points. And, I mean, these are still SEC teams. I just feel like that's a lot of points for both without an overtime type of game for that to get into.
Yeah, the key too is the big plays. I mean, how many big plays? That's what you're really looking at because a drive can be wiped away really quick with a score if somebody takes it to the house and 50, 60, 70 yards. And that's the key when you're looking at these teams. Can we avoid the big plays or minimize the big plays for those totals?
Well, now I need to go back and look at all the explosive plays teams have week over week and actually be a real professional bettor. But – all right, Alex, you want to go next or on me too? It doesn't matter.
I'll go ahead and go.
Okay.
Next one I have is Louisville and Virginia Tech. Louisville's a 10.5 point favorite. Louisville's going to win, but I think Virginia Tech covers that. Virginia Tech's kind of been that sneaky team. They've been playing well, even through the coaching change and all that. But I think Louisville wins, but Virginia Tech covers.
Yeah, I don't know here. I just don't trust Virginia Tech. I like Louisville, but there's a lot of points. I think Jeff Brom's the best coach, one of the best coaches in the country. I think I said that last week. He's one of my favorite coaches personally. I just don't know in this situation, Louisville going to Virginia Tech. This is an odd spot for them, but they've only got one loss on the season. They didn't cover at Boston College last week, if I recall. So going on back-to-back weeks on the road. So this could be I'm with you, Alex. This could be a tough spot for them.
Yeah, I actually liked it. I saw it earlier, Louisville minus 9.5, and I kind of liked that number, but I definitely like 10.5 for Virginia Tech, which makes me think, why do I even like the 9.5 if I like 10.5 that much? My next one here, all my picks are, well, actually, all the rest of them are in the SEC. I'm going to go Oklahoma plus 3.5 at Tennessee. I think that Brett Venables just got pantsed by Lane Kiffin, and he has a really, really good defense, and Tennessee does not have a good defense. So if I get 3.5, let me take it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think this is these are two teams we can't figure out. I just don't know how good these teams are. I know they've lost a couple of games apiece, and they've lost to good teams. This is an elimination game as far as the playoff. So this is where the playoff starts for these two teams right here.
Yeah, I agree. And Justin, I think, said it really, really well today on the Chief Sports Network on the Daily Show with Jamie Bradford. He said, like, all these games right now are elimination games, and that does not mean there are not more elimination games coming. And there are a lot of them coming. So, Alex, go ahead with your next pick, my friend.
Yeah, so going to Duke and Clemson in this one, going another point total here, 55.5, or to have it 56.5. I'll go under here. I just, Clemson's offense, I think really both offenses, I don't see them getting to 56.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is another tricky line, and Clemson, I just still don't know. They're laying points against Duke at home. Is Clemson that bad? I mean, are we going to take Duke on this or what? I mean, it's like,
well, no. I think Clemson's favored by 3.5. Last I saw, they're not
that's
laying
what I'm saying.
points.
Like, are you gonna Can you take Duke, or do you have to take Clemson? I mean, it just seems like very little points, right?
I think if I was to make a pick on this game, I think you have to take Duke plus 3.5 and just eat it if you're wrong.
Last time I checked, it was down to like 2.5. So that's what I was saying.
Oh gosh, well, again, I love 3.5. I hate 2.5. That's why I don't bet, y'all.
Yeah.
So my next one, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Actually, my next two games we talked about earlier. I'm taking Georgia minus 7.5 versus Florida. It's a neutral field game. Florida's done, y'all. Like, I don't care. Like, when you fire a coach midseason and you're facing a Kirby Smart defense, you're toast. So if DJ Lagway threw 5 interceptions against LSU, just wait. It's not going to be pretty.
No, I'm with you. I like Georgia. I thought we talked about this earlier with Alex. I like Georgia by the hook just to be safe, and then obviously take the over. I think there'll be some points scored in this game.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Alex, your last pick.
Yeah, so last one, Justin actually mentioned this one earlier. Florida State and Wake Forest. Florida State's 10-point favorite. I think they cover. Just with Wake Forest, I'm just not sure what they're going to be. Like, they're having a good season, but I just feel like this is one where Florida State, Mike Norvell needs this one. I got Florida State covering.
Yep, I like it.
He definitely needs it, and you will make my wife a very happy person if Florida State covers, because let's not forget, Florida State hasn't won an ACC game in a number of attempts. I think it's
I don't think they
12,
go
13,
way
9,
past
whatever.
I think it's a close cover. Like, I think it could be like one of these like late touchdown type of things that get somewhere, because Wake Forest has been better this year, like I said, but I just think it just feels like a Florida State type of quick or late cover.
Robbie Ashford versus my wife. I'll take my wife in this one. So I agree with you, Alex. The last game I have is Kentucky plus 10.5 at Auburn. I just think that Auburn's season's done. I like the hook there. Kentucky is and Mark Stoops are masters of just staying in games but not winning them. So I'll take Kentucky plus 10.5.
Yeah, that's a lot of points. I just don't know what to make of this Kentucky team, but I'm with you. Auburn's not a powerhouse anyway, so I like your side there.
Well, Justin, let the folks know where they can find you. Justin's the best. He's been doing this, and he's giving you guys free thoughts, but he does have a website, $30 a month. Justin, tell them where to find you.
Yes, sportscapvalue.com. We have our daily picks. monthly for $30. So right now we're obviously college football and NFL, and then picking up Monday with college basketball. We're heavy in NBA right now as we speak on a daily basis, and we've got the World Series going on right now too as well. So come join us today, sportscatvalue.com, and then just one little another pick for the week. I like the we were talking about totals earlier, team totals. I like the under 34 for Ole Miss for team totals against South Carolina. So put that in your back pocket.
Yeah, and Justin, you missed this. I actually predicted South Carolina to win 28-24. I think that it's time. I think the 12.5 is free money. If anybody wants to bet it, I didn't pick it, and I won't bet it. But I think the Gamecocks do win this week. So am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I just don't. Like I say, week in and week out, we just don't know what to expect with this South Carolina team right now. How motivated are they going to be? Obviously, they're on a skid right now, but 34 points team total for Ole Miss. I think our defense has played well all year, obviously. Yeah. So I look for them to contain Ole Miss a little bit. I'm not saying we're going to win, but 12.5 is a lot of points, but it's on the road in Oxford at night. So look for South Carolina to kind of keep it close, so to say, and maybe they'll get that upset that they need.
I love it. Well, Justin, man, we appreciate you so much. Can't wait for college basketball. Thank you for joining us again. Justin at sportscatvalue.com. Go ahead and subscribe. It's the best money you'll spend if you enjoy betting. Justin, have a good night. We'll see you next week.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Justin.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, Alex, it's that time of the week. Are you heading to Oxford this weekend?
Yep, heading out Friday night. First time I've ever been there, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Alex will come back with a girlfriend because they are aplenty in Oxford. So enjoy your time in the Grove. Enjoy the game. Hopefully you bring back a Gamecock victory for all the fans here. Alex, before we get out here, any parting shots?
No. I just once again just want to thank everybody for coming. Looks like we had a pretty good crowd here tonight. Thanking everybody in the chat room too, because it's been pretty lively chat. Everybody in there, so it's been a whole lot of fun. The show just keeps growing, and next week we'll be talking football and basketball. Have an actual basketball game to talk about. So looking forward to it. Yeah, and again, I will say that if you like us, it would really help us to go on Spotify or Apple, iTunes, podcast, whatever it's called. Subscribe, 5 stars, and know that we have a loyal YouTube audience and we love y'all to death. So if you catch us another way, it really helps us. And then Chief Sports Network, they do have merchandise for us right now. I told you I ordered some shirts. Hopefully I'll be wearing them next week. But Nike's coming and Chief Sports Network is all over it. Again, everyone, thank you so much for being here tonight with us. If you listen to us later, thank you for making us a part of your day, whenever that is. You give us the most valuable thing you have, which is your time. So thank you. And we will catch you all Sunday. Hope you have a great evening. Bye, everybody.